What happens when a clumsy girl with a wrinkled resume accidentally adjusts her bra in front of the CO's car, only to discover he's her new boss. Meet Lana Park, a brilliantly awkward woman who turns disaster into destiny. From coffee spills and elevator mishaps to unexpected love and a life-changing proposal, this is a story about resilience, laughter, and finding joy in the mess. You'll laugh, you'll tear up, and you won't want to miss a second. Where are you watching from? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more stories like this. Lana Park was running. No, sprinting. Down 32nd Street with one heel clicking louder than the other, a wrinkled resume flapping in her hand like a white flag of desperation. Her hair, meant to look effortlessly elegant, now resembled a windswept bird's nest. Her heart pounded like a fire alarm as she glanced at her phone screen. 9-3, Her interview was at 9-0. I swear, if I miss this interview, I'll start selling organs, she muttered. How much does a slightly used kidney go for these days? Dodging a hot dog cart and tripping over a loose brick on the sidewalk, she somehow kept moving, powered by caffeine, anxiety, and sheer stubbornness. She reached the towering glass building, Milvalink Solutions, and paused just long enough to remember she looked like a human tornado. She spotted a sleek black car parked in front of the entrance, its tinted windows gleaming in the morning light like a flawless mirror. Jackpot. Without hesitation, Lana leaned in, using the window as her last chance to salvage whatever dignity she had left. She pulled her shirt tight, adjusted her bra with the finesse of someone wrestling a snake, and dug into her purse for lipstick. With the kind of laser focus reserved for bomb disposal units, she swiped on a layer of ruby red. She smiled, satisfied, until she spotted it, a rogue leaf of lettuce, wedged squarely between her front teeth, bright and proud, like it belonged there. "Oh, no," she whispered, poking at it frantically with a finger. She twisted her face in all directions, mumbling nonsense as she pried at the green invader. Then, the quiet hum. The window began to roll down. Lana froze, fingers still halfway in her mouth. Her eyes widened in horror as the glass lowered to reveal a man inside. Not just any man. A devastatingly handsome one. Clean, cut jaw, impeccably styled hair, navy blue suit that looked criminally expensive, and an amused expression that screamed, "I saw everything." "Need help with that?" he asked coolly, one eyebrow raised. "Or would you prefer a professional mirror next time?" Lana blinked twice. Her brain shouted, "Run!" But her legs had turned into cement. She dropped her hand, wiped her fingers on her pants in silent defeat, and lifted her chin. "Let me know if you find my dignity," she said. "I think I left it somewhere between the lettuce and the Olympic. Level bra adjustment." He laughed. A soft, rich laugh that made her cheeks flush crimson. "Well," he said, resting his arm on the doorframe, "the mirror did look like it was judging you first." "It was an accident," Lana huffed. "I don't usually undress in front of strangers' vehicles." He tilted his head. Sounds like a case of wardrobe malfunction meets bad salad. Lana took a step back, clutching her resume like a lifeline. "Look, I really have to go. I'm already late for a life." Changing interview. The man nodded, smiling like he wasn't about to say something ridiculous. "If you make even half the impression in there that you did out here, you might as well ask for a corner office." Lana glanced at her phone, yelped, and dashed toward the entrance. "Good luck with your expensive car and your movie." Star face, she called over her shoulder. "Good luck, Miss Bra Emergency," he replied with a mock salute. She barreled through the building's revolving doors, heart pounding, cheeks still burning, and blazer flapping behind her like a superhero's cape in distress. At the receptionist's desk, a woman with a tight bun and a calm voice said, "You may go in, Miss Park. Mr. Carter will see you shortly." Lana nodded numbly, the name not quite registering. She walked into the glass-walled conference room and sat on the edge of a sleek chair, wiping sweat off her palms and whispering to herself, "Okay, breathe, breathe, it's fine. You're a professional. You have a degree. You paid taxes. You can do this." The door opened. Lana turned with a smile that she hoped looked calm, and froze. Julian Carter, the man from the car, walked in, tablet in hand, confidence radiating from his every step. "You?" she blurted. He smirked. "Me? Were you expecting someone else?" Lana felt her soul leave her body for a second. Julian Carter, tall, pristine, and unfortunately in possession of every humiliating memory she'd just tried to repress, was now standing across from her, flipping through a tablet like this was just another Tuesday. "You're the CO?" she asked, half standing, half panicking, her eyes darting to the exit, like it was the last lifeboat off the Titanic. Julian raised an eyebrow, a grin tugging at the corner of his mouth. "And you're the woman who used my car window as a dressing room. I'd say we're even." Lana wanted to crawl under the glass table and live there forever. Instead, she forced herself to sit, clasped her hands tightly to keep them from shaking, and prayed to every deity that he'd develop sudden amnesia. I can explain," she stammered. "Oh, please don't," he said, taking his seat across from her. "You'll ruin the mystery. Personally, I'm still undecided if you were performing interpretive dance or just losing a fight with your blouse." She groaned, burying her face in her hands. "I knew I should have just stayed unemployed. Unemployment doesn't come with public humiliation." Julian leaned forward, still amused. "Well, Miss Park, your resume says business administration, some marketing background, and 2 previous roles in finance. But I think we both know that's not why you're sitting here." Lana peeked through her fingers. "It's not. No. You're here because in the span of 90 seconds, you managed to turn an ordinary morning into a memorable event. And frankly, that's a rare skill." She blinked. "So, I'm not disqualified because of the lettuce. On the contrary," he said, folding his hands. "You handled it with humor and didn't run away screaming. That tells me more about your character than 3 pages of bullet points." Something flickered in Lana's chest. Relief, maybe, or disbelief. Possibly indigestion from the questionable yogurt she'd inhaled on the subway. She cleared her throat. "Okay. So if we're doing this, I should probably say that I'm reliable, resourceful, and despite recent events, I don't usually cause scenes involving undergarments and produce." Julian laughed, a low, genuine sound that made her stomach flutter. "Noted. Let's pretend for a moment that we met under completely normal circumstances. Why do you want to work here?" Lana took a breath. The easy answer, the rehearsed one, sat on the tip of her tongue, but it felt fake now. She was too far into this circus to backpedal into generic. "Because I'm good," she said plainly. "Not perfect, not pedigreed, but I work hard. I'm creative. I figure things out, even when I'm 2 steps behind and wearing mismatched socks. All I've ever needed was someone to give me a real shot." Julian's expression shifted. The humor softened into something thoughtful. "That's..." "I can lie if you want," Lana offered quickly, sitting straighter. "Say something like, I've dreamed of being in tech since I was 3 and coding on my toy calculator. Julian chuckled, shaking his head. No need. I prefer people who don't speak in buzzwords. He twirled a pen between his fingers, his eyes narrowing slightly, studying her. What if I told you that someone in this room already formed an opinion about you? Lana tilted her head. I'd ask if that opinion includes chaotic disaster with oddly endearing survival skills. He smiled again, slower this time. It includes authentic, unpredictable, and maybe too interesting for her own good. Her heart did something weird in her chest, like skipping a beat and forgetting how to restart. She smoothed her blouse with a hand. Well, I'd say that person has a dangerous taste in employees, but excellent instincts. Julian closed her resume and stood. Miss Park, I think we'll be seeing each other again soon. She blinked. Wait, is that it? I've seen everything I need to see, he replied, walking toward the door. You're hired. Hired, she repeated, stunned. That's it. No more questions, no more questions, no aptitude test, no quiz on the stock market. Julian turned, smiling with that maddening calm. You've already passed the hardest part. Being yourself, even when everything was falling apart. As the door shut behind him, Lana sat back, mind whirling. She'd come in expecting to beg for a shot. Instead, she'd left a part of herself on the sidewalk, lettuce, lipstick, and all. And somehow, still got the job. On her first official day at Novalink, Lana stood in front of her closet, staring blankly at her options, which ranged from almost professional to clean but questionable. She finally settled on a slightly faded navy blouse and black slacks, with a crease that had given up somewhere between the third and fourth wash. After running a brush through her hair, Weiss, and muttering a pep talk in the mirror. Weiss, and muttering a pep talk in the mirror that ended with, "At least you're wearing the same socks today," she grabbed her coffee and bolted. The subway ride was merciless. She was elbowed twice, stepped on once, and at one point someone's iced matcha sloshed dangerously close to her shoulder. But she made it. Slightly rumpled, a bit breathless, but intact. Almost. The Novalink building looked even shinier than the day before, as if it were mocking her. She entered the lobby with the tentative confidence of someone trying to remember how to walk like a grown adult. The receptionist greeted her with a practiced smile and pointed her toward the 12th floor, where she'd be starting as an admin assistant for the product development team. The elevator was mirrored, of course, a cosmic reminder of her humiliating debut. She avoided her reflection, stared at the floor numbers, and counted her breaths. When the doors opened, she stepped into a hallway of polished glass, designer lighting, and employees dressed like they were on the cover of a minimalist fashion magazine. As she walked in, badge swinging around her neck, 3 heads turned. 2 offered polite smiles. 1 gave her a curious once, over, then, a woman with curly auburn hair and a dangerously sharp-looking pen in her bun stepped forward. Lana Park, right? She asked, holding a steaming mug of tea like it was a potion. I'm R.I. Thanks, Lana said, her voice just above a whisper. I just hope I make it through the week. Ari grinned. With your resume and that infamous window incident, you're already a legend. Lana's eyes widened. Wait, how do you... Ari pointed subtly to the glass wall on the 3rd floor, the one facing the street. Someone up there saw everything reflected in the window. You've been the talk of the break room since yesterday. Lana groaned and dropped her forehead onto the nearest cubicle wall. Perfect. I was hoping to keep a low profile. Maybe do some light spreadsheeting. Not become office folklore. Oh, you're a charming character, Ari said, patting her back. Come on, I'll show you your desk. Lana's workstation was nestled between a giant fake ficus tree and a printer that wheezed like it had asthma. It wasn't glamorous, but it was hers. She adjusted her chair, opened her laptop, and was just about to take a sip of her coffee when a familiar voice floated down the hallway. "Watch out for the coffee. And the lettuce." She looked up to see Julian strolling by in a slate-gray blazer, phone pressed to his ear, smirk intact. Lana nearly choked on her coffee. Ari nearly dropped her tea. By the time Julian disappeared around the corner, a bright pink sticky note had magically appeared on Lana's monitor. It read, "Miss Lettuce," accompanied by a doodle of a bra and a thumbs up. "I knew I shouldn't have gotten out of bed today," Lana muttered. "Relax," Ari said, still laughing. "Everyone gets a nickname eventually. You were just ahead of schedule." The rest of the morning was a blur of orientation videos, security briefings, and passwords with too many symbols. By noon, Lana's brain felt like a piece of overcooked pasta. As she was finishing a training module, a calendar alert popped up on her screen. Investor presentation. Mandatory attendance, Auditorium B, accompanied by All Park. She blinked. "Ari," she whispered, "do you see this?" Ari leaned over.
Ooh.
This was scheduled by Julian Carter himself. Lana's stomach flipped. "Me." Ari shrugged. "Looks like he either really believes in you or wants to see if you'll trip on stage and go viral again." Lana closed her eyes. "Please let there be cookies." Or a blackout. 20 minutes later, she stood outside Auditorium B, with her heart pounding in her throat. Julian appeared at the door like a movie scene come to life. "Punctual," he said, glancing at her. "That's rare around here." "You really want me in this presentation?" she asked. "I like surprises," he replied. "And you're good at them." He paused, grinning. "Today you're trading cookies for the spotlight." Lana took a deep breath. "If I pass out, I expect hazard pay." Julian smiled. "Deal." Lana stepped into the auditorium like someone walking into an exam they didn't study for, but were somehow expected to ace. The room was sleek, modern, and way too full of people in tailored suits and polished shoes. She clutched her notepad to her chest like it could deflect judgment. Julian walked in beside her, all calm charisma and quiet confidence. He moved through the rows of executives and investors like he belonged. Which of course he did. He belonged everywhere. Lana, on the other hand, felt like a misplaced sticky note in a hardcover business manual. They took their seats at the front. She adjusted her chair and tried to breathe evenly. Julian leaned over slightly and whispered, "Relax. You're not here to speak, just observe." That should helped. It didn't. The presentation began. Julian spoke with effortless command, gesturing toward the screen where slick visuals lit up key points about product integration, market growth, and whatever else the slide said that Lana couldn't fully process. She tried to focus, but her nerves had other plans. Then, it happened. A man in a tailored brown blazer raised his hand. "How exactly do you plan to make this product resonate with younger, non-tech-savvy users? They're a notoriously tough segment to convert." Julian paused. He glanced at the audience, then at Lana. "Lana," he said smoothly, "any thoughts?" Her brain stalled. Every head in the room turned toward her. Panic prickled at her spine. Julian gave her a calm, steady look. Not a warning, not a dare, just trust. She stood up slowly, praying her knees wouldn't buckle. "Well," she began, her voice a little shaky, "I think the key is showing people that technology doesn't have to be scary or exclusive. Use humor. Use real-life moments. Make it human. Make it feel like using our platform as less tech guru. And more, hey, I just figured out how to work my microwave, and now I feel like a hacker. The room went still, then a few soft chuckles. A nod. Julian smiled. Not the smug kind, but the kind that meant I knew you could do this. Lana sat down again, heart still racing, but a little more steady. As the presentation wrapped up, people clapped. Some even approached Julian to shake hands and discuss next steps. A few glanced her way with curiosity, one investor giving her a nod of approval. As they left the auditorium, Julian turned to her. Congratulations. You survived your first presentation. Barely, she replied, blowing out a breath. I think my soul tried to escape twice. He chuckled. You even got a laugh from a finance guy in a three-piece suit. That's a miracle. Or a hallucination, Lana muttered. I honestly don't remember what I said. You said exactly what needed to be said, Julian replied. And you said it like someone who knows people. That's rare. Lana blinked at him. Thanks, I think. Julian gave her a nod and walked off toward his office, leaving her standing there in the hallway, still trying to process everything. Back at her desk, Ari spun around in her chair, eyebrows raised.
So, you survived?
Define survived, Lana said, flopping into her chair. You made investors laugh, Ari said. You might as well retire now. It's all downhill from here. Lana groaned and dropped her head onto her keyboard. Do you think I can legally change my name? No need. You're officially not just Miss Lettuce anymore. Lana peeked up. Oh, great. Now I'm Lettuce with a microphone. You're Lettuce with influence now, Ari corrected, grinning. Big difference. Lana leaned back, let herself laugh, and realized something surprising. Deep down, beneath the panic and caffeine, she felt proud. She'd been tossed into the deep end, and somehow she hadn't drowned. Not yet, anyway. The next morning, Lana woke up feeling like she'd been steamrolled by a week's worth of emotions. Her brain was still processing the investor presentation, while her body decided to rebel by making her trip over her own shoe within 5 minutes of getting out of bed. After wrestling her hair into something almost respectable and choosing her least wrinkled outfit, she muttered, No lettuce, no public speaking, and no disasters. Please. She arrived at Novalink 10 minutes early, which she took as a small victory. That victory was short-lived. While pouring herself a cup of coffee in the office kitchen, a taller-than-average man bumped into her from behind. Her arm jerked mid, pour, and half the cup of steaming liquid landed right across her blouse. Sorry, the man said, grabbing a paper towel. Didn't see you there. No problem, she said through clenched teeth. Just coffee. It matches my mood anyway. Back at her desk, Ari looked up and immediately narrowed her eyes. Oh no, what happened? Let's just say caffeine attacked me. Do I look like I got into a fight with a Keurig? Ari nodded solemnly and lost. Lana took a deep breath and sat down, trying to pretend the damp spot on her shirt wasn't rapidly spreading like a bad decision. She opened her email, hoping to drown her embarrassment in spreadsheets, when one particular message caught her eye. Meeting with Julian Carter, 10:00 a.m. She froze. Ari, she hissed, do you see this? Ari rolled over in her chair to peer at Lana's screen. Julian. Like the Julian who owns all the good suits? Yes, that Julian. Ari looked at her, then at the coffee stain. Well, Lana groaned. No, I wanted a boring day full of anonymous reports and maybe a snack break. At precisely 9:59, she knocked on Julian's door, her heart doing jumping jacks in her chest. "Come in," came his voice. She entered, trying not to look like she'd just barely survived a coffee tsunami. Julian sat behind his desk, scrolling through something on his laptop. He looked up, and for a brief second, his gaze dipped to the stain on her blouse. He didn't comment. "Good morning, Lana," he said. "Take a seat. I have something to show you." She sat, feeling like she was about to be shown a termination letter or a security camera screenshot of her lettuce incident in Fork. "I want you to take lead on a special project," he said, sliding a folder toward her. Lana blinked. "Wait, me? Lead?" Julian nodded. "It's a campaign that's been shelved for months. It needs a fresh perspective, and your pitch at the investor meeting proved that you understand how to talk to people. Not just customers, but investors, partners, the team. You have a voice. I want to use it." She opened the folder. Graphs, projections, mock-ups. It was detailed. It was intense. It was completely out of her depth. And yet, it also felt thrilling. "There's a catch," Julian added. "It's going to demand extra time. Late nights. Maybe some weekend hours. But it comes with extra pay and full credit." Lana looked up. "Is this for real?" "Very real," he said. "I trust you." Something in his tone softened her. Trust. She wasn't used to hearing that word from bosses. Usually it was, "Can you grab lunch?" or "You're 5 minutes late." She hesitated, then smiled slightly. Then, "I'm in." He nodded, pleased. But he didn't miss the way her fingers gripped the edge of the folder a little too tight. "Is everything okay?" he asked. She hesitated. Her usual instinct would have been to brush it off with a joke or a sarcastic quip. But today, she was tired of pretending. "I'm about to be evicted," she said quietly. "My rent's overdue, and my bank account is basically a crime scene. I didn't want to bring it up, but, Julian didn't blink. Instead, he opened a drawer and pulled out a slim blue folder. "We have a support program," he said, sliding it toward her. "Discreet, short-term. It's not charity. It's assistance. For people who deserve a break." Lana stared at the folder like it might bite her. I don't know if I can take this." "Why not?" "Because it feels like I've failed." "No," he said gently. "It just means you've been carrying too much alone. This helps you set it down, just for a bit." She nodded slowly, swallowing the lump in her throat. "Can I think about it?" "Of course," he said. "Take your time." She left his office with the folder in hand and 1,000 thoughts in her head. But one thing was clear. Julian Carter wasn't just a CEO with good suits. He might actually care. That evening, Lana sat on her bed with the support folder Julian had given her lying untouched beside her. She stared at it like it was an overdue confession she wasn't ready to make. Her apartment was small, cluttered with thrift store furniture and buzzing with the soft hum of a fridge that sounded like it was struggling to survive. She glanced around, then sighed. "All right, universe. Fine. You win." By morning, she'd made her decision. She arrived early at Novalink, marched into Julian's office before she could overthink it, and placed the folder neatly on his desk. "I've thought about it," she said. "I accept, temporarily, just long enough to breathe without spiraling." Julian nodded once. "That's all it's meant to be." There wasn't some dramatic swell of music or an inspirational montage, but Lana felt lighter as she walked out of his office, like something that had been sitting on her chest for months had quietly decided to take a walk. From that point on, she threw herself into the project. She brainstormed, scribbled on sticky notes, devoured competitor data, and started crafting a pitch with the kind of fire she didn't even know she had. One night, while reviewing customer feedback on an old product model, she muttered, This interface is as confusing as IKEA instructions written in Klingon. Then she scribbled, "New campaign angle. Technology shouldn't need a translator." Even Julian noticed. He started stopping by her desk more often, not in a hovering way, but in a quiet, watchful kind of manner. Sometimes he'd offer feedback. Sometimes he'd just raise an eyebrow and ask, "Microwave reference or salad joke today?" She'd shoot back, "Depends. You want sophisticated or survive the boardroom energy?" It became their thing. One afternoon, a calendar invite popped up. Quarterly Tech Fair. Chicago presenters. J. Carter, L. Park. Lana stared at it. Ari noticed immediately. "Whoa," she said, spinning her chair around. "You're presenting at the Tech Fair?" I guess so." Lana blinked. He didn't even mention it. He just scheduled it like it was a dentist appointment. "Maybe he thinks you're past the point of needing permission." Ari sipped her tea and added with a smirk, "Or maybe he likes traveling with unpredictable company." Lana laughed nervously. Traveling with the boss. Friday arrived faster than expected. At the airport, Lana stood with a borrowed suitcase Ari had lent her and a boarding pass that felt like it belonged to someone much more together than she was. Julian showed up in a navy coat that looked custom, tailored, wheeling a carry, on so sleek it probably had Bluetooth. "Morning," he said, offering her a coffee. "You look like you didn't sleep." "I didn't. My anxiety and my caffeine addiction had a fistfight last night." "You don't show it." "That's because I did my makeup like I was painting over drywall." On the plane, they didn't talk much. Just enough to joke about airplane food and rank the worst in flight movies they'd seen. She found herself watching him when he wasn't looking. How he pinched the bridge of his nose when he was thinking. How he rested one ankle over his knee like someone born with composure. In Chicago, they went straight to the hotel. It wasn't flashy, but it was nice enough to make Lana hesitate before sitting on the pristine white comforter. The next day, they headed to the convention center for rehearsal. The room was big, full of tech teams setting up booths, screens blinking in every direction. When Lana stood on the small stage with the presentation clicker in hand, her voice trembled a little at first, but after a few tries, she found her rhythm. Julian stood at the back, watching her, not just with approval, but with pride. After rehearsal, they grabbed dinner at a cozy spot nearby. No tablecloths, no wine lists in French, no pressure. "So," Lana said between bites of mac and cheese, "if I forget my lines tomorrow, do I just fake a power outage?" Julian smiled. "No, you improvise. Just don't bring up microwaves unless it's absolutely necessary." "That's my closer. Don't rob me of my material." As they walked back to the hotel, the air was brisk. Lana hugged her coat tighter. "I should have brought something warmer," she muttered. Julian shrugged off his jacket and offered it. She looked at him, surprised. "No offense," she said, "but if I put that on, I'll probably sweat from sheer panic." "It's just a jacket. It's probably worth more than my rent." He smiled. "Then consider it a temporary lease." They reached the lobby. The elevator doors opened. "Get some rest," Julian said as she stepped inside. "Tomorrow's your moment." Lana nodded, her heart racing for reasons that had nothing to do with the tech fair. "Just promise me if I trip on stage, you'll clap like it was part of the choreography." Julian didn't miss a beat. "I'll give you a standing ovation." Lana woke up before her alarm the next morning, her heart already drumming against her ribs like it had an urgent message to deliver. Her dream had been a surreal mashup of presenting slides in French while wearing pajamas and trying to click through charts using a spoon. She sat up, blinked, and muttered, "Okay, brain. We're not doing that today." She showered, straightened her blouse, and spent a full 5 minutes staring into the mirror, trying to convince herself that she didn't look like she was about to pass out. "You practiced. You've got this. You practiced. You've got this. Just don't black out, or fall, or sweat visibly." Downstairs in the hotel breakfast area, she found Julian already seated, flipping through notes and sipping coffee like it was just another Tuesday. He looked up, gave her a smile that landed somewhere between calming and infuriatingly composed. "Did you sleep?" he asked. "I dreamed I gave a TED talk about croissants and accidentally ended with a cartwheel," she replied, pouring herself a cup of what could generously be called coffee. "That sounds memorable. Let's hope today's version involves fewer pastries and more logic." He glanced at her, eyes kind. "You're going to do great. Promise you won't leave me stranded up there?" "Promise," he said, "unless the stage catches fire. Then it's every man for himself." By the time they arrived at the tech fair, the venue was buzzing. Attendees streamed in, wearing badges and carrying branded tote bags, their faces a mix of caffeine, curiosity, and capitalist optimism. Lana's stomach twisted with every step closer to the presentation room. They did one final sound check. Julian handled the opening, cool and practiced, laying the groundwork for the session. Then he handed the clicker to Lana and gave her a small nod that said, "This is yours." She stepped forward. For the first few seconds, her voice trembled. But she kept going. Her slides appeared on the screen, and slowly, her words began to land. She used metaphors, told a story, wove in humor, just enough to keep the suits in the front row engaged without making it a stand-up routine. And that's why simplicity matters," she said, clicking to the final slide. "Because when people feel like they understand what's in front of them, they're more likely to trust it. It's not about dumbing things down. It's about opening things up." There was a pause. Then applause. A few people in the audience even smiled. One older man in a camel-colored blazer leaned over to another executive and said, "Finally, someone speaking a language we all understand." Lana exhaled slowly as she sat back down next to Julian. Her hands were still shaking slightly, but her face carried something new. Pride. He leaned over and whispered, "You were amazing." "I didn't faint," she whispered back. "That's already a personal record." Julian chuckled. "And you got a tech investor to laugh. You may be a unicorn." They spent the rest of the day at the Novalink booth, chatting with attendees, answering questions, handing out demo codes. Lana was surprised by how often people came up to her specifically to compliment her clarity and delivery. One even asked if she did consulting. She nearly dropped the branded pen she was holding. Later that afternoon, back at the hotel, Lana collapsed on the bed with a dramatic groan and texted Ari. Presentation, survived. Didn't trip. May have blacked out emotionally, though. Ari replied 2 minutes later, obviously a miracle. Proud of you. Also. Update me on all the details. Lana laughed softly, then got up, changed into something more comfortable, and headed down to the lobby. Julian was waiting by the elevator, dressed in his usual quiet elegance, scrolling through something on his phone. "Hungry?" he asked, slipping it into his pocket. "Yes, but also socially drained, so I might speak only in food sounds." "That's fine. As long as one of those sounds means burger." They found a casual spot nearby. Nothing fancy, just warm lighting, good fries, and a menu Lana could actually read. They talked about the event, the weirdest booze they'd seen, including one with a robotic dog that barked in binary, and who in the audience looked like they were only pretending to take notes. On the walk back to the hotel, Lana wrapped her arms around herself as the breeze picked up. "You sure you're okay?" Julian asked. "Yeah," she said softly. "It's just, today felt like something shifted. Like I proved something, but I'm still waiting for it to settle in." He nodded, then looked at her with a kind of quiet seriousness. "You didn't just prove it to them? You proved it to yourself." And maybe he was right. Because for the first time in a long time, Lana wasn't running from something. She was walking, heels clicking steadily on pavement, toward whatever was next. The flight back to New York was quiet in that oddly charged way, like the silence between two people who know something happened, but aren't quite sure how to name it. Lana sat by the window, her forehead resting lightly against the cool glass, watching the clouds drift by like lazy thoughts. Beside her, Julian scrolled through emails on his phone, but she noticed how he kept glancing her way when he thought she wasn't looking. They hadn't talked about the almost moment in the elevator, about how the lights had flickered, the world had paused, and something between them had nearly tilted into the unfamiliar. It was like they'd both stepped up to a line. And then the elevator had decided, quite literally, to interrupt fate. Back at the office, everything looked the same. Same glass walls, same soft hum of the printer that never worked right, same fake plant in the corner that collected dust, but never judgment. But something felt different. Lana felt different. By Tuesday, the whispers had started. It began with side glances in the hallway. Then came the lingering stares at the coffee machine. Finally, Ari cornered her by the snack counter, holding a protein bar like it was a microphone. "Okay, Spill," she whispered. "What exactly happened in Chicago? And don't say nothing with that post-romantic, glow look on your face." Lana blinked.
Glow. I'm pretty sure that's just leftover anxiety sweat.
"You're deflecting," Ari said, narrowing her eyes. "Did you two kiss?" "No, we didn't." But Lana trailed off, feeling her face heat. Something almost happened. And I think everyone somehow knows. "They do," Ari confirmed cheerfully. "People have been calling it the elevator event. Someone said you came out looking like you'd seen fireworks. Another swore you were smiling like you'd just discovered dessert with no calories." Lana groaned. "I can't believe this is my life. I work so hard, and yet I'm still the girl from the car window. Now I'm the elevator girl too." Ari leaned in.
Look, it's annoying now, but give it time. People will forget. Or they'll get distracted by someone else spilling kombucha on the CEO's shoes.
But Lana didn't want to be remembered for rumors. She wanted to be remembered for the presentation, for the project she'd built from scratch, for surviving investor questions without throwing up. Julian, for his part, kept things professionally calm, almost too calm. When they passed in the hallway, he nodded like nothing had ever shifted between them. During team meetings, he addressed her contributions with polite approval, but no lingering smiles. It was like he'd thrown up an invisible wall, polished, polite, and entirely infuriating. So Lana did what she always did when she didn't know how to feel. She threw herself into work. She skipped lunch breaks, organized her notes with military precision, and rewrote half of the new campaign guide because the font didn't feel approachable enough. By Thursday afternoon, she was buried in design feedback when Julian stepped into the team room to give a department-wide update. He talked about upcoming launches, board decisions, and then, almost casually, said none of this would have happened without the people who think differently, who simplify, clarify, and challenge the way we communicate. He paused, then looked directly at Lana. People like Lana Park, whose innovation during the Chicago presentation shifted the way we frame user experience. Applause broke out. Lana froze. He didn't say her name like it was just another employee's shout-out. He said it like a declaration, like an anchor in a room full of moving pieces. Ari grinned at her like Christmas had come early. That, she whispered, was definitely for you. After the meeting, Lana walked briskly back to her desk, pretending her heart wasn't trying to beat its way out of her chest. She told herself it was fine. It didn't mean anything. Maybe it was just professional gratitude, that's all. Except she couldn't stop replaying the way he'd looked at her when he said it. And later that afternoon, when she returned from grabbing coffee, she found a note on her keyboard. One simple sentence scribbled in neat, slanted handwriting. You were missed. J. J. Lana stared at it for a long time before slipping it quietly into her notebook. She didn't smile. Not quite. But her chest warmed, steady and sure, and for the first time all week, she let herself believe that whatever was happening between her and Julian wasn't just in her head. The following week unfolded with the speed and confusion of a dream Lana wasn't quite awake for. One minute, she was getting applauded in the team meeting, and the next, she was quietly pulling back, bit by bit, like a turtle slowly retreating into its shell. She couldn't explain it, not even to herself. There hadn't been a single defining moment. No dramatic confrontation or awkward silence. Just a gradual sense of caution settling in her bones. She started avoiding the kitchen between 9 and 10 a.m. Julian's usual coffee hour. She shifted her lunch breaks, chose email over face-to-face communication, and rerouted every opportunity for unnecessary interaction, like she was planning a social GPS. When he passed her in the hallway, she smiled, nodded, and kept walking, short, polite, safe. It wasn't because she didn't want to talk to him. It was because she wanted to talk to him too much. Ari noticed immediately. Okay, she said one afternoon while spinning in her chair like a judgmental tornado. Are you ghosting the CEO, or are you just developing an allergy to tall men in tailored suits? I'm not ghosting him, Lana muttered, eyes fixed on her screen. I'm being professional. Ari hummed. You do realize that pulling away dramatically is basically the most obvious thing ever, right? Just trying to focus on work, Lana said, shifting uncomfortably. I want to be taken seriously, not as elevator, girl or lettuce, mirror, girl or whatever other nickname people are still whispering behind my back. You know what people are actually whispering? Ari leaned in. That you're smart. That you nailed a major presentation. That Julian Carter, the guy who barely smiles in board meetings, smiled at you like you invented coffee. Lana stared at her blankly. You can be brilliant and have a complicated situation with your boss, Ari added, sipping her tea. They're not mutually exclusive. Lana didn't answer. She couldn't. Not because she didn't believe Ari. Deep down, maybe she did. But because every time she allowed herself to think about Julian beyond work, it felt dangerous. Like admitting to something she couldn't control. The universe, of course, had its own plans for control. That Thursday, Lana received an email with the subject line, Conference Opportunity, Phoenix Tech Panel. Her name was listed under confirmed panel leads, and the sender was none other than Julian Carter. She read the email 3 times before getting up and walking straight to his office. He looked up from his desk as she entered, unsurprised. Did you know about this? She asked, holding up her phone like it was evidence. I submitted your name last week, he said calmly. It's a great opportunity. Leading a discussion on user. First innovation. You'll be representing Novalink. Lana blinked. For a week. In another city. Yes. Yes. Her voice dropped a little. Is this your way of pushing me away? Julian's brow furrowed. What? Because I've been pulling back. Because I've been weird. I know I have, she said, almost too fast, and I don't know how to fix it, but sending me to another state. Lana, he interrupted gently, I didn't submit your name to push you away. I submitted it because you're good, because this panel needs someone who doesn't just speak tech. They speak people. That's you. She looked at him then, really looked. And he didn't seem cold or distant. If anything, he looked hesitant, like he wasn't sure how close to stand without scaring her off. I just thought, he added, you might need space. And I didn't want to be one more person pressuring you. Lana let the words sit in the air. They weren't wrapped in flowers or sweetened with charm, but they felt real. I'll think about it, she said softly. He nodded. Whatever you decide, we'll support you. She left his office with a swirl of thoughts chasing each other in her head. In the end, she accepted the trip, not to run away, but to clear her mind, to figure out what she actually wanted without the pressure of hallway glances and unfinished elevator moments. The night before she left, she found herself sitting on her couch, packing slowly, her playlist humming in the background, her phone lighting up with a message from Arai. If you come back without answers, I will lock you in a meeting room with him until one of you cracks. Lana smiled faintly. She wasn't sure what answers she'd come back with, but for the first time, she wasn't afraid to look for them. Phoenix was hot. Not just it's summer hot, but why do my shoes feel like they're melting hot? Lana stepped out of the airport and immediately regretted wearing black. Still, as the car pulled away from the terminal and toward the city skyline, she rolled down the window just a bit and let the unfamiliar air hit her face. It wasn't refreshing, but it was different. And different, for now, was exactly what she needed. The hotel was modern and minimalist, with beige walls and an abundance of motivational quotes printed in sleek typography. Led with vision. Build with purpose. Lana dropped her suitcase on the bed and stared at the ceiling fan spinning above her. She had work to do. She had a panel to prepare for. And yet, every quiet moment in that room kept pulling her thoughts back to New York, to one particular person who hadn't texted or called since she left. Julian. She hadn't messaged him either. It was like they'd silently agreed to freeze everything. But that didn't stop her from checking her phone every 5 minutes, just in case. The conference schedule was packed. Panels, networking breakfasts, evening mixers. Lana kept her days full, moving from one room to another in sensible shoes and blazers that didn't wrinkle easily. Her panel was on day 3, and she spent every free moment rehearsing, rewording, and fine-tuning her presentation. When the day finally came, she stood backstage gripping her note cards like they were oxygen. But the moment she stepped onto the stage, something clicked. She wasn't just talking. She told stories about design choices that confused people, about apps that made users feel stupid, about the power of simplicity and humanity in tech. Her words landed. People laughed. Some even clapped mid-sentence. Afterward, attendees approached her with questions and compliments. A representative from another company asked if she'd be open to consulting. Another offered to send over their user interface for feedback. Lana smiled, took business cards, and tucked them carefully into her notebook. She was surprised to realize she wasn't just surviving this week. She was thriving. But even as the days passed and the praise came, something felt off. like she was winning a game but missing the crowd she wanted in the stands. One evening, after another successful panel, she collapsed on the hotel bed and stared at the glowing skyline outside her window. Her phone buzzed. FaceTime. Ari. Lana answered, and Ari's face filled the screen, wearing a robe and a green face mask. "So?" Ari asked, wiggling her eyebrows. "Did you fall in love with Phoenix, or just its air conditioning?" Lana laughed. "Both. Maybe. Also, the conference is going great. I'm learning a lot. I might even bring back a new buzzword or two." "And?" Ari asked, narrowing her eyes. "Any updates from the tall, brooding man back at HA?" Lana's smile faltered. "Nope. Radio silence. On both ends." Ari sighed dramatically. "You're both disasters. Do you know what he's like without you there? Focused, efficient, quiet. Which sounds normal for Julian, but not like now. He's not talking to anyone unless it's about spreadsheets. The man hasn't even made a sarcastic comment in 3 days. That's unnatural." Lana looked away. "I don't know what I expected. Maybe that he'd miss me, or say something. But it's easier this way, right? We were tiptoeing around it anyway." "Or maybe he's waiting for you to stop tiptoeing," Ari said. "Either way, you'll know when you're back." They hung up, and Lana laid there in the quiet. The hotel air hummed. Outside, traffic moved like a slow pulse. She thought about what she'd say if Julian called. Thought about the note he left. She hadn't realized until now how much she missed him, too. When the plane touched down in New York a few days later, she felt a strange mix of nerves and hope brewing in her chest. She stepped into the Novalink building, suitcase wheels clicking softly on the tile, and was greeted by warm smiles and a few enthusiastic welcome backs. Someone even handed her a cup of coffee with a sticky note that read, "CO still brooding. Status unchanged." She laughed quietly and made her way to her desk. Sitting neatly in the center was a small envelope. Her name was written on it in familiar handwriting. Inside was a single note. "Glad you're back. Let's talk. Jay." Lana sat down slowly, heart thudding. The space between them hadn't vanished, but it had shifted. There was no more pretending. No more guessing. Now there was only the truth, and whatever came next. The next morning, Lana woke up with her stomach doing slow flips. It wasn't dread exactly, but it also wasn't excitement. It was that strange middle space where hope and panic mingled. She got ready in silence, choosing her favorite soft gray blouse and a pair of earrings she only wore when she wanted to feel just slightly braver than she was. When she arrived at the office, the buzz of her return was still floating through the air. Colleagues smiled a little longer. A few clapped when she walked into the break room, and someone had left a sticky note on her keyboard that read, "Legend status unlocked. Welcome home." But Lana wasn't thinking about the hallway chatter. Her focus was on one line in OneNote, still folded in the pocket of her blazer. "Let's talk." She barely had time to sit down before a calendar invite popped up. Meeting with Julian Carter, 9:30 a.m. Conference room D. No subject, no agenda, just them. At 9:28, she stood in front of the glass door, hands clammy, heart rattling. She inhaled once, pushed it open, and stepped inside. Julian was already there, standing by the window with 2 cups of coffee. He turned when he heard the door, offering one to her with a careful look. "No elevator this time," he said. She took the cup. No flickering lights. Progress. They sat, the silence not heavy but dense, like a moment waiting to be unpacked. "I wanted to say congratulations," Julian said finally. "The panel went better than anyone expected. The board was impressed, and honestly, so was I." "Thank you," she said, voice soft. "It was a good trip." A beat. A beat. And also, he continued, really quiet here without you. Lana blinked. You mean no lettuce jokes at lunch? He smiled, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. I mean it. Your presence, your energy, makes this place better. I missed it. There it was. That word again. Missed. I missed it too, she admitted. The office, the work, even the sound the printer makes when it's about to explode. And anything else? He asked, not teasing, just. She took a slow breath. I missed you. His expression shifted, relief softening the edges of his features. Good, because I've been walking a line for a while now, between being your boss and being someone who, he trailed off, eyes locking on hers, who feels more than he probably should. I know, she said, and I kept pulling away because I thought if I got too close, I'd ruin everything. My job, my momentum, my sanity. And now? Now I think pretending nothing's happening might ruin it faster. Julian leaned back slightly, as if releasing tension he'd been holding on to for weeks. I'm not asking for anything dramatic. I just wanted to talk to you. Honestly, no filters. Lana nodded. Same. They sat quietly, coffee cooling between them. So, what do we do now? He asked. You're the one with the business plans, she replied. You tell me. Julian chuckled. All right. Step 1. Don't ignore each other anymore. Step 2. Maybe have dinner somewhere that doesn't involve spreadsheets or investor decks. She smiled. As long as it doesn't involve French menus or elevator breakdowns. Deal. He reached into his briefcase and pulled out a small box, handing it to her. What's this? Something I had made before you left for Phoenix. I wasn't sure I'd get the timing right. Lana opened the lid. Inside was a keychain, shaped like a compact mirror, engraved with the words, Warning, may reflect feelings. She laughed. Full and warm and real. This is the corniest thing I've ever seen. And yet, he prompted. And yet, she said, running her fingers over the words, it's perfect. Julian gave a small mock bow. My mission is complete. Lana stood, still holding the keychain. So, she said, walking to the door, about that dinner. I'll send you the details, he said. Promise, no overpriced duck this time. As she left the room, the hallway noise returned, and the world kept spinning. But something inside her had clicked into place. There'd been no kiss, no dramatic confession in the rain. But there had been honesty. And that, for now, was everything. The weeks that followed unfolded not with fireworks or sweeping romance, but with something better, ease. Lana and Julian didn't rush into anything. There were no grand declarations or viral-worthy moments, just quiet steps forward taken slowly and deliberately. A dinner after hours turned into a late-night walk. A shared ride became a casual Sunday museum trip. Their relationship wasn't defined by spectacle. Their relationship wasn't defined by spectacle. It was built in the spaces between meetings, the text, just you and me, and the mornings when Julian brought her coffee without saying a word, just smiling and walking away. At the office, they remained professional. Mostly. Sure, there were stolen glances during presentations and the occasional note left on her desk. One reading emergency, bring snacks, also charm. But they never crossed the lines they'd promised to respect. Lana still sat by the fake ficus. Julian still sat behind glass walls. But they both knew something was different. Something important had begun. Ari, of course, was the first to figure it out. You're glowing, she whispered one morning, handing Lana a muffin like it was a microphone. That's, my boss might secretly be my boyfriend kind of glow. Lana rolled her eyes. He's not my boyfriend. Yet, Ari said, grinning. But you've got the look. The post-soft launch pre-official announcement look. It's like a romantic beta test. Lana laughed because it wasn't entirely wrong. Outside of work, weekends became theirs. They cooked. Well, Lana cooked, and Julian provided dry commentary and cut vegetables like he was conducting surgery. They watched movies. He liked bad sci-fi. She preferred documentaries about unsolved art heists. They argued about plot holes and laughed until midnight. One Saturday, while they were walking through a local street fair, Julian bought her a mug from a vendor. It was bright yellow and red. Ask me about my impulsive metaphors. She nearly cried from laughing. But their favorite thing, strangely enough, became assembling IKEA furniture together. Lana had a theory that if two people could survive tiny screws, missing parts, and an instruction manual with no words, they could survive anything. During one of those lazy afternoons, while sitting on the floor surrounded by wooden panels and coffee cups, Julian looked at her and said, "You know, I've never been this calm before, not in a long time." Lana reached over and adjusted the lopsided shelf they'd just built. Maybe you just needed someone willing to read the instructions with you. A few months passed like this, quiet, steady, whole. Then, one Friday morning, Julian suggested a weekend getaway. "Just us," he said. "Somewhere quiet. No phones, no meetings." Lana packed light, expecting a cabin or maybe a hotel with rustic charm. What she didn't expect was a lakeside retreat with a small wooden dock and a rowboat tied at the edge. It looked like something out of a storybook. On the second day, they took the boat out just before sunset. The water shimmered gold. Lana leaned back, arms behind her, hair loose in the wind. "It's beautiful," she said. Julian looked at her, not at the lake, not at the trees, but at her. "I've been waiting for the right time," he said, reaching into his jacket pocket. Lana froze. Her heart skipped a beat, or two. He held out a small blue velvet box. "I didn't prepare a big speech," he said, voice soft. "But everything I want to say, you already know. I love you. Not in the big dramatic way, but in the real way. The steady, quiet way. The way where I want to build bookshelves with you forever." Lana laughed through the tears rising in her eyes. He opened the box, a simple, elegant ring that sparkled just enough to make her breath catch. "Lana Park," he said, "will you marry me?" She nodded, then whispered, "Of course, yes, absolutely yes." He slid the ring on her finger, and in the silence that followed, there were no witnesses, no applause. Just the sound of the water, the sky turning pink, and two people who had finally found their way home. 3 months later, they got married on a quiet beach at sunset. No massive ceremony, no elaborate decorations. Just friends, laughter, and vows that made everyone cry and laugh in the same breath. And when Lana walked down the aisle, she wasn't thinking about lettuce or lipstick or elevator lights. She was thinking about how love doesn't always enter your life like thunder. Sometimes it shows up quietly. With a sticky note, a mug, and a mirror. Life has a funny way of leading us exactly where we need to be, just not always in the way we expect. Lana's journey reminds us that perfection is overrated and authenticity is powerful. She didn't land her dream job by checking every box in a resume. She did it by showing up as herself. Even when that meant awkward moments, lettuce, stained smiles, and duck-tapped shoes. What truly stood out was her resilience, her humor, and her refusal to let shame define her. The deeper lesson in Lana and Julian's story is this: success and love don't require you to have it all figured out. You don't need a perfect past, a spotless image, or a 10-year plan carved in stone. What you do need is courage, the kind that allows you to be honest, to take risks, and to say yes even when your heart is racing. And sometimes, the right people will see your value not in spite of your flaws, but because of them. Whether it's a career opportunity, a relationship, or a second chance, the doors that matter open when you stop pretending and start living with purpose. So let this story be a reminder. You are enough, exactly as you are. And sometimes, the messiest beginnings lead to the most beautiful endings. Thanks for spending time with this story. We'd love to know. Where are you watching from? Drop your location in the comments below. If this story made you smile, tear up, or just feel a little more hopeful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next one. See you in the next chapter.